Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Indie Wednesday show. First of all, last week was WCCS Fest and it is now finished, which is very sad. However, it was fantastic and we had some amazing authors on. And I just want to say thank you so much to every single person that was involved with that show, whether you were a guest on the show or someone who just, um, came and talked to us or sent us wonderful messages, because there were plenty of those. So thank you so much for being part of that, whichever way you were part of that. And also on this show today, Chris Hooley is still moving house and waiting for his internet to be reconnected and all that good stuff. So the silver lining to that was, if you watched last week's show or the week before even, we had guest host Rossi Young on the show, and it was fantastic because it gave us a whole new perspective and a new way to engage writing community members on the show directly. So they are guest hosting with us throughout this Indie Wednesday show segment from now on. And today I have author of Behind Blue Eyes. It is the wonderful Anna Mocikat.
Hi. Hi,
Hello,
Chris.
Anna.
Hey, I'm
How are
so
you?
glad you invited me. I'm so excited.
It's wonderful to have you on the show. And it's this last week on Friday, the live show that we did, you missed a
hmm
treat, I think, because
Yeah, I couldn't. A friend called me and it was an emergency. I had to pick her up because her
yeah.
car broke down. So
Oh no.
yeah, that had priority.
It was kind of an hour show, supposed to be an hour show that ended up a 2.5 hour show.
Wow.
So it kind of went a bit wild, and I think drinking was probably a part of the reason why. But it was fantastic, a great way to finish off WCCS Fest, which finished on Sunday with Ash Knight's interview. So if you haven't seen or listened to any of those shows, go back and do so because they've been fantastic. So just before we start off, and you know the procedure now, we have a new sponsor type thing going on the show. And if you haven't seen the Beer Token book promotion, go check out our pin tweet. In fact, I may have changed that. So if it's not there, you'll see it around. Don't worry, I'll share it. But basically, someone sponsors the show to have if you're watching this on YouTube, not on the podcast, someone's book cover will be up in the top corner and the details below. If you are on the podcast, by all means, I will share links to that on Twitter anyway. So this week's sponsor, I'm going to shove his book cover up in the top corner now. It's quite hard to see up there because it's quite dark. But the book is called One on One. And this it seems a very different type of book that most people are used to seeing. And it's very intriguing. And it's something that I think will, if it's especially in the horror or thriller type region, or you like those books, then this will be one for you to look into. And the beer token appreciation is for Michael Kelso. And as soon as I heard that name, I was thinking of that '70s show. Have you seen that, Anna?
No, I don't think
It's
so.
like a really old sort of comedy series. It's now on Netflix as well. You can watch it on there. But Michael Kelso is one of the actor or character roles in there. And his book, like I said, is called One on One. And anger is a disease, and revenge is not the cure. A good little hook that is. And okay, someone's review. It made me think, it made me squirm, it made me swallow my Adam's apple, made me grin, made me uncomfortable, and didn't stop the whole time. And that was just a very start of a very long review. So that is a great a good insight into what that book is will give you a feel of. And that is available on Amazon paperback and ebook as well. So please check that out and look in the show's description notes and you will find links to that book. So thank you very much. And in homage to your beer sponsor, I have a lovely Brecon Blonde beer from Wales. And Anna's got her own drink as well.
There. So
Can you...
it's only 2 p.m. here in South Carolina, but what the hell, right? I mean, I'm invited on the best podcast show on the internet, so that's
Oh,
definitely a reason to have a nice vodka lemon,
well, that's a very nice
self-made
thing to
lemonade.
say. Oh, really?
Cheers.
Yes, cheers. And I poured that terribly. And if you're watching, I
Oh,
apologize.
and it looks nice actually.
Yeah, once the bubbles go down. Oh, amazing. So, what's the weather like there? Have you got a nice, that sounds like a nice summer's drink.
Yeah, it's really hot like every day. I mean, today actually it's not so hot. We have
Okay.
only we have only I think 87, so that's not so hot for August here. So
Right.
87, that's, I don't know, in European 30. something like that.
So that's
So
still pretty hot.
yeah, that's not so hot here.
You're normally used to more heat there.
Yeah.
I got to say, I think we around 25 this weekend is looking like a 25 weekend, which is quite hot for us.
That's true. So
Yeah. So
I would like to introduce my assistants who are here as well. As promised, we have Batman and Wonder Woman here. They are a little bit grumpy because they don't like being dressed up in the middle of summer. Here they are. So here we have
wow.
Batman. Yeah, that's Batman.
Hey. Oh wow. Look at that.
His name
Um,
is Neo. His name is Neo, but today he's Batman. And this is the grumpiest Wonder Woman in the world here. So she
wow.
hates it. She hates this costume.
She's avoiding you at all costs right now.
Yeah, she is like, oh. And of course, there is also Yuri, but Yuri doesn't have a costume yet because I got her
Oh,
last year in December. So this year for Halloween, I will get her something. It probably must be a villain costume for her because, yeah, she definitely needs that. She can't be a
Yuri.
superhero.
Yuri needs a writing community chat show costume. Is what Yuri needs.
Oh my God, that would be fantastic. Yes. Yes. So
Yeah.
right now she is really calm and docile here over there
Mm-hmm.
napping, but I'm sure she will come and distract us
Fantastic.
sometime. Okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
as
So
promised, here they are. I
I
will
do
have her.
appreciate your dogs are fantastically in costume for the show. I think that's brilliant. And if you guys obviously not watching if you're listening on the podcast, her dogs are actually in superhero costumes, which is fantastic. Brilliant. Okay, so the aim of Indie Wednesday, I'm assuming most of you know what this is. If you haven't seen Indie Wednesday before or listened to it, then it is a place to come and talk about indie issues, answer questions from within the writing community about sort of writing processes and those sort of things, and use our experience between us to give you some good answers that may be helpful. And by all means, if you have alternative answers to those questions, please message the show because we will share those out to everyone so we'll get the good advice. So, Anna, are you ready as an
Always,
experienced author to
always
answer some
ready.
questions? Excellent, excellent.
Yes.
And again, classically, I've picked some names with terrible Twitter names. Not terrible names, but terrible for me to pronounce. So hopefully Anna can help me out with this. So the first question: Do you want? Can I dump this on you, Anna? Can you try and pronounce this? Let's
I
have a
don't
look.
see. Oh, here. Okay. Jean-Marc Garibaldi? No, Gagiladi.
It's a tough one. So I'll just read the Twitter name so you can find it. At Jean May, JeanMari _gag. So his question was, if you become a famous author, Anna, this is to you, because it's not going to be me, will you still follow people from the writing community back?
So why is this for me and not for you? Maybe
Well,
you will be the famous author one day.
no, because your books look amazing. And
I heard
when...
your book is amazing too.
Nyeh.
Yeah.
But we'll see, we'll see. I don't think a famous author, though. I think you may be more that route, and I maybe, you never know, podcast legend at some stage, earning the big bucks like the big podcast guy. I don't even know his name. So the question: if you were a famous author, say living the world like Stephen King, would you follow people back in the writing community?
Definitely, definitely. So, for me, I mean, of course, everybody would say that, right? Because people say a lot of stuff and then don't care. I met a lot of famous people in my life, and most of them are assholes, and they become like that over the years because they think they get a little bit the God syndrome. But for me, I always will remember where my roots are, where I come from, who my friends are, who I owe a lot because they were very helpful. And I've found so many fantastic people here in the writing community. Even if I would become the new Stephen King, which will never happen, I would never forget about those people. And what I would do definitely is try to help out so others have success as well.
Definitely. I think that's a very humble approach, and that's something that we've highlighted within the writing community that is a very strong part of the community. Everyone wants to help each other. There is no
Yeah.
one trying to get above each other, and it's a fantastic thing. And certainly since I've been part of the writing community, m- I am trying to pay back everything that they've given me because it's been a lot. People like yourself I've reached out to, and just the advice has been fantastic. So I wouldn't be here doing this if it wasn't for the community itself. So I absolutely, I think we've got a lot to we owe it a lot, and it's
Yes, definitely. Wonderful people, wonderful people.
yeah. Well, what's that? There's a saying somewhere. Be nice to those on the way up because you might well see them on the way back down. Uh, you never know. So
Yes, yes, but that's really something that so many people forget about. I mean, especially the movie industry is full of bad people, and they once they are up, they will just punch and kick down on everyone below them because
mm,
they experience it on their way up, and that's how it's the same. If you abuse a child, the child might become, not necessarily, but might become an abuser once he's an adult. And
hmm
it's the same with the industry. People get abused so much, and then once they're on top, they will abuse the little ones.
yeah.
So that's how it is. But I think the writers world isn't quite as bad, and the writing community is like an oasis.
Some of the best advice I've ever been told is not being told directly, but just heard around being said was just don't be a dick, and everything's good then, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna smash the place up. Okay, so moving on. That's a great question. Thank you, Jean. Jean May. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but thank you for your question. And the next one. Okay, so go on. You can have this one because it's an easy pronunciation.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, Tom Galvin. His Twitter name is at THOM_Galvin. Um, this is a loaded question, but what is the biggest thrill you get from your writing? You start.
Okay. Biggest thrill from writing. I've got to say, and I'm assuming a lot of writers might be in this position, that I really appreciate when someone takes the time to leave a review of your work.
Hmm.
Even if it's like something just someone says while they're passing or in conversation, but when they give you feedback about certain, and it's even when it's specific, so they give you a certain scene that I really loved when this happened. That is so rewarding and confirming of this of what you believed in as well. So I really think that's the biggest thrill for me.
I totally agree. That's really wonderful. That
Mm,
sometimes people reach out to you and say, "Hey, I would like to give you feedback," and they are totally surprised when authors react very positive and are really happy about it. But I feel the same as you. If someone goes into detail and starts telling me about this and this character and this scene, and what they liked about it, that's just wonderful. That makes me feel so good because then all the hard work I put into it seems to have a reason and a value.
mm. I think as any new author sets out, and if you are new and you're listening to this, or you haven't quite released your first book yet, the big thing to remember is why, all the way through the process, when you get stuck at formatting, and you probably will, or something like that, when you're finding it difficult, just to remember why, in fact, you started in the first place, what the process, the reasons behind it, and especially when, like something that I'm going through at the moment, there's been occasions where I've had one or two little reviews that weren't exactly praising. They were still praising, but they weren't highlighting certain things. Just to not get hung up on those things and focus on the positives that you started with. And I think that will get you through most situations.
You're really spoiled if you only have two reviews that are not so nice. I have some reviews which are really really mean, and yeah, that's what you have to deal with, right? That's part of the job. Sometimes people will just hate what you do or hate you and will express that in a
Hmm.
not so kind manner. So I think that's a very important tip for newbies, so they don't get upset about it. I mean,
So,
it's hard, but
so how do you deal with that as an author that's going in the right direction? I've seen many. We've had authors on here that have well published, and they've been on. You've had their books optioned and actually made into productions, and I've seen their books getting slated. These are people that are professional authors that are doing it full time and they're still getting these reviews. So how do you think that people deal with those? Do you think that's is a common, to everybody?
Yes, I think that's absolutely normal. I mean, if it's always when you get a bad review and feel depressed about it, just go to a famous bestseller and then on Amazon and click on the 1-star reviews and let Amazon show you what people think about some of the best novels ever written, and
Mm,
you will see there are just stupid people out there who like being mean, and others just don't get it, and everybody's different, so some people like this, other like that, and
mm,
I don't know, I think that's always a good cure, and it will always happen. I mean, look at the very famous people. They sometimes they get smashed by critics. um there are only very very few who always will be praised by critics,
mm.
but sometimes even the ones who are praised as a genius, then they bring out the next book and then the critics will go bam, and they somehow have to live with it, man.
It's the weight of the expectation as well, isn't it? I mean, if you've released something that's amazing, if your first book becomes an amazing book, I think it's very difficult then to bring
Hmm.
out another one without fearing for your life. Because if
Hmm.
you've released a steady book, say 5 books over, say 6, 7 years, and each time they've improved and you've gathered a following, I think, it's a good process. I think if you release a number one smash hit, you'll be wondering what to do next, because how you don't want to hit the top just that quickly, or people want to, but in
you
reality, would
might
that be
become a
wise?
you might become a one-hit wonder. I
Mm,
mean, that happens quite often, actually. I say there's two kinds of artists. One is the artist who develops and grows and becomes better, and then reaches a level of creativity of his art, which is kind of stable, and that's where he stays. And there are these shooting stars who pop up out of the nowhere and create something amazing, and that's
mm,
it. So they are
yeah.
really like poof. It's like as if they would bring in all their creative energy they have for their whole life, like a bubble in them, and this bubble will explode in one thing,
Mm,
and then after that they will be mostly empty. That really happens quite a lot when you look at it. So the one hit
mm.
wonders appear in music, they appear in literature, in movies. There are directors who made one fantastic movie and then everything else was total crap. And you always wonder, why is that? How
Well,
can the same
I'm
person create
hoping
that?
I'm hoping
Hmm?
to tick all the boxes. So I've I released the 2 stories of a one series. Now I'm going to go into film screenwriting. So hopefully I'll tick all the boxes of one hit wonders throughout the whole process. So we'll have a look in a couple of years, see if I made it.
Well, if you're going into screenwriting, you can always ask me
Oh, I will. I will.
about the process, the writing process, and everything else.
Well, if you notice the tweet I put out yesterday, I am going to vlog the entire process of screenwriting from an absolute non-experienced screenwriter to the end product, and through the software I'm doing all that stuff. That will be a vlog available on our YouTube channel, so look out for that if you're interested. It's going to be interesting for me. It's going to be a hard, long learning journey, but it's going to be fun. So keep an eye out on that
Yeah,
for
I
me.
will. And I mean, if you want feedback, I can give you feedback. I mean, that's what I learned. That's what I studied at film school.
Yeah,
So I'm sure I can take a look if you like. I can be a
yeah, yeah.
script doctor.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Tom, for that question. Fantastic. The next question is from Jeff Richards at Ohioa 89. I think that's spelled the right normal way. Hi, writing community. I have a summer question for you. Hey, what is your favorite barbecue food? Slightly off writing's topic, but I like it. Go on, Anna.
Yeah.
What's your barbecue food?
Um, I really like German sausages. I really do. I miss them. And you get them. I grew up in Bavaria, and yeah, you can go to the beer
Mm,
gardens there everywhere and get your German beer and your German sausage and sauerkraut and whatever pretzels. So that's the kind of barbecue I actually miss here.
yeah. That sounds amazing. And we have in the UK a kind of Christmas market thing that's nowhere
Hmm.
near, I imagine, what in reality they're like. But it's very famous, the Bavarian beer festivals and sausages. So one year, maybe we'll get there and we'll have a look.
How
Yeah.
about you?
I'm a big fan of barbecues in general, but I love my brother-in-law is a chef and he's opened this fantastic restaurant local, and he
Mm.
likes to smoke meats. And now I love smoked meats, so like a rack of ribs or whatever, just smoked out throughout the day and maybe glazed in some rum. I don't know, that sort of thing. So it's a bit of a
Oh
fancy
my God,
barbecue. Yeah,
that
going
sounds
fancy.
good.
So yeah, that's my thank you, Jeff. That's a randomly fun question. Okay, Anna, do you want to go for this one?
Gabriela Buba at Gabriela and Buba. Hey, writing community, today's writing question. Does your MC have any regrets? Mara regrets fighting with her mother. So Mara is probably her MC. Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. So my story is about a young lady called Daisy who goes on a journey that's kind of very much troublesome and very much involves a lot of up and downs. Don't want to give too much away, but the second book is out a week Friday.
Oh, it's
Um,
exciting.
it is it's very exciting because I love how this story has evolved and the character's arc as well. So her arc involves some things that kind of go wrong, and I don't want to say what it is because I don't want to give away in the story what's happening. But one of those things is a big regret for Daisy, who felt very connected to this certain character that as a result of her coming, I guess, ends up in not such a good position. So that's her regret, and I won't give too much away. So
It's always
yeah,
difficult. Yeah, but that sounds great. Well, I'm so excited for you. That's so awesome that your next book is coming.
well,
Great.
as an indie author, and this is something that we've talked about before. It's kind of weird to be releasing a sequel because you don't really know. I mean, when you release your first book, your friends or family are very fond of wanting to support you, but does that support carry? And do people buy sequels when they have not read the first book? I don't know. And during COVID-19 as well. So there are a lot of factors that are giving me doubt at the moment, but we'll see how that goes. And you never know, it might be a success.
You should never have doubt. That's something I learned. Doubt is like like an ugly little animal, like kind of like gremlin that will always be there and bite in your neck and sit there and bite you and that kind of. No, don't listen to doubts ever. It doesn't matter how long I'm doing this for 20 years, and I think the doubt gremlin will never go away. So
I am forever
just
going to
don't listen to it.
envisage this doubt gremlin that's chomping on my neck from now on. I think that's fantastic. Anytime I get in a situation now where I feel nervous, I'm just going to picture this gremlin eating my neck, and I think I'll be good. I think that's great.
And then you just take it off your neck and I don't know, take scissors and cut it a half or something like that. I mean,
Well,
gremlins die in really horrible ways,
I mean,
right?
that's
So
that's the goth coming out in you. That is, Anna. What's wrong with this? I might just tame the gremlin and just keep him there for fun. Just a bit of advice and my pet on the shoulder. I wouldn't cut it in half. That's a bit harsh, but
but
of
have you seen the movies?
course I have.
The gremlins die in horrible ways. So
Well, they are a bit They are a bit crazy in the old Gremlins film.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to show you something. So Wonder Woman is now awake and is lying on Batman.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, they really love each other. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the Avengers film coming in. You know.
Um, okay. Should I answer the question too?
Yes, please.
Um, So I'm gonna talk about Behind Blue Eyes because I'm writing. I'm now working on Behind Blue Eyes too.
Ooh.
So I don't want to say anything about this because Behind Blue Eyes ends quite with. It's not really a cliffhanger, but it's a very open ending. So I can't
Okay.
really say anything without spoiling the fun. But in Behind Blue Eyes itself, I mean, yeah, the character it has basically a journey of regrets because
Mm.
she's a killer cyborg and she is super tough, and yeah, her job is to hunt down people and kill them. And then she meets a little girl, and that's how she starts for the first time doubting and thinking. And then the more she gets into this doubts of the whole system, the more she regrets what she was doing, and then she decides to stand up against it. And I will not say how this ends, but definitely regrets are a very important thing in my story behind Blue Eyes.
Fantastic. It's a great answer. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Gabriella, for that question. We got a couple more. We got a few more there. Okay. Chris Honeycutt is editing. That is his Twitter name. It's quite a long one. And at my CLL writer, I'm going to just type these up in the script notes, so I won't keep reading them out, but you can find them there if you want to follow them. Good morning, writing community. Do you self-publish? If so, why did you choose this route as opposed to traditional publishing? Now, Anna, I know the answer to this question already, that you are a published writer.
Oh, I'm both.
Yes.
I am
Yeah,
both, actually.
which is fantastic, and I am self-published, so we have a great range of answer or experience to
Yes.
answer this question. So can
Yes.
we start with you, and for people listening, explain what that means?
So I actually have three experiences I can talk about. I will make it really quick. I have been published by, back in Germany. I used to publish in German in Germany before I moved to the US. So back in Germany, I was with one of the top 5 publishers, and so that was a really big one, and I had the experience with them. Then moving here, I chose a smaller publisher for my Shadow City series, and now the second book with self-promotion here. So the second book is coming out on September 17th, so very soon. So the series is with them, and now Behind Blue Eyes is the first book I published myself, self-publishing, and this has a very simple reason, and that is control.
Mm-hmm.
I think the bigger the publisher, the less control you have. You basically sell your book and you sell your soul, and then they will do whatever they want. And in a big publishing house, there are so many people working on your book, and even if one person screws up something, you will be the one who will pay for it, and they just get their paycheck every month, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that I personally wasn't happy with the big publisher I was with. So it's much nicer with the small publisher. Because they are way more open and cooperative, and you can talk to them about everything. And self-publishing, well, you have full control over everything, and I think that's fantastic. I love it. But of course, you're the only one who can screw up. You can't blame it on anyone
Yeah.
else.
Well, it's a fascinating extreme that you spoke about, because a lot of people their sole aim is to hit a big publisher.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like you said, there are a lot of complications that come with that. And a smaller publisher does a very similar job, but that small publisher is also trying to make it in the publishing world. So they are much more likely, in my eyes, to want to propel you forward and gain success with care for an author, because a big publisher will already have that ego on their shoulder, who
Mm-hmm.
assumes that they're just doing the right thing. They know what the right thing is. They just want to make money. So perhaps if you're going down that route, a small publisher may be a better option to aim for.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I'd
and I
like to
agree.
add, yeah,
Yeah,
please.
go on.
No, please. So if I would like to add something more about the big publishers. It's true. People aim for them. It's the big dream, right? I had this
Mm-hmm.
big dream too. And I was very happy when it worked out. And I thought, oh, yeah, I'm where I always wanted to be. And now I went away from it. And one of the reasons also is that if you sign with a big publisher, unless you are for some reason in their eyes the new messiah of publishing, the new super duper best-selling author, unless you're that person, if you're just one author of many they have, they won't take care of you. You basically have to do all your marketing yourself, uh, almost as if you were self-published or with a smaller indie publisher. So it's
Okay.
basically only the name of the publisher you have behind you, and well, they send it out to some press and so on. That's of course good. I
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of attention with my books. But you really have to know that, because most don't, that they won't do much for you. You're too costly for them. You're a too costly investment, because
Mm.
they rather put millions into the next Stephen King book or whatever, and then the little ones that are just scrolling there and have the crumbs.
Yeah, well, that kind of makes sense. I mean, from a business perspective, not that I would do that in my if that was my business, but kind of see why that happens. And so, if you don't know, the ones listening, that I went down the self-published route completely, and now for the same reasons that Anna spoke about. Well, there's two reasons. Firstly, yes, you have the control, and secondly, I didn't. Well, there's three reasons. Secondly, I didn't want to go and chase a big publisher and send off my manuscript over and over and over again and go down that process. It just wasn't for me. All I wanted to do was release a book and say, I've done this and I'm proud of it. Little did I know, when I was writing the first book and released it, I was so in love with the process, I wanted to keep doing it. So when I released my book, I did everything myself, and which is why I've had those couple of negative reviews, because I didn't pay out massive amounts of money, and this was another reason. So finances are a huge aspect that most people don't think about when releasing a book. Now, if you're a self-published author, there are things to pay for, like cover creation, editing, proofreading. There's a massive amount of money, ISBNs. There's just tons of things to pay for, but there are ways to do it yourself. However, they come with a little bit of a warning that perhaps it could affect your ratings and those sort of things as a result of doing it yourself. So I went self-published, and I don't really have a wanting to go and chase a publisher, other than the reason is than marketing, as Anna mentioned, is quite a hard thing to do without much knowledge or money. So there are
Hmm.
pluses and there are negatives to both sides.
I would
So
like
I
to add
guess.
one more thing to that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go for a publisher, a small, medium, big, whatever, I would skip the agent. So I had a very famous, successful agent back in Germany, and it was a very bad experience,
Okay.
and so I got one of the best you can have. That's as if you would sign here with one of the top agencies. That's the kind of feeling you have, and it turned out to be really, really a bad experience. So this time I went without an agent, and I would recommend that to everyone. Skip the agent. They are telling you that you can't get a publisher without them, but that's a myth. That's not true. They do that because they're the gatekeepers. They basically will take 15 to 20% of all your earnings just for one thing, and that one thing is they send your manuscript to the publisher,
Okay.
and forever and ever they will get money from you for that. So
So can I ask you, if you don't have to answer this because it could be a
mhm.
personal question, but when you're with a publisher, how much money roughly per book do you make? Do you know?
um, so with my publisher here, it is, I would say, fair. It is a fair rate I get.
Okay.
It is of course not as much as I get from my self-published book,
Mm.
but with the big publisher in Germany, it was almost nothing what you get per book. It's really,
Okay.
and then the agent gets 20% of it. So
Yeah, of course. So that's
so
what I was
so
trying to
it's
work
really,
out. Yeah. Because self-publishing, you get, it's not. I had no concept of what you could or what you wouldn't make, with a release of a book or sales, but with Amazon self-publishing, you get a couple of quid, and out of a whatever price book you make it, which is it's all right, but you still have to publish it yourself,
yeah,
and market it yourself. So when you're with a publisher, they may or may not do that for you. So there's a lot of things to weigh up. So I think
yeah.
it's very much a trial and error for what you think suits you, basically.
Hmm.
But again, this obviously is a conversation that could go on for a long time, and we will probably go back to to this again another show. Is I'd like to hear your success stories in the writing community. If you have any great advice, please drop us a tweet, and we will have a look at those and maybe talk about them on the show again, because I think it's a fascinating debate that can go on forever, with authors. And as new authors listen to the show, I think it's valuable information. So thank you, Chris Honeycutt, for that question. I nearly said a rude word then. uh, too many T's. Okay, next next question. S. Alessandro, and I say Alessandro like that because wasn't it what's her name? Lady Gaga song? She says something like Alessandro. I can't even say it. Alessandro Martinez. Why Twitter name's fantastic. At the underscore Morda underscore Shin. If we were transported into your book, what are some tips you'd give to survive in that world? Stroke story. That's a great question.
Oh, that's a nice one. Yeah. You
Do you know
start.
what? S. Alessandro Martinez, I'm going to ask you this on air and I'm going to tweet you about it. I would like to use that question to ask some authors that we have on the show because I think that's a fantastic question. So please answer me that when I message you. So if they were transported into my world, wow. Well, there's a private military organization that's doing experiments in the desert on humans. That's completely illegal, and they're trying to create super soldiers basically, and it goes wrong to a point where an infection spreads. In kind of the fast, crazy, scary zombies are released. All the
Hmm.
while, yeah. So they are closing in desperately fast on the city where Daisy is trying to find her father and escape. So it's against the time. So you need to be quick, because obviously the city's in chaos. They know what's coming, so everyone's panicking and trying to escape a city that's only got one way in, one way out, which is kind of crazy to think about. But so you need to be quick. You need to be witty, knowing what's going on with people. Because they act weird when things like that are happening, and without too many clues, you need to be a good climber. So
Oh
the
my
climb of
God. I,
truth.
I, I would so die.
The climb of truth has a real meaning in the story.
I'm so dead in your story.
Well, because if you don't get out in time in this story, then you are gonna not end well either way. Regardless of the monsters coming for you, there's a bad end to the story.
I need to
So,
read your book, really. I really, really. I have it on my Kindle. I have it on my
yeah.
TBR. So I need
What's a
to push
TVR?
it. No, I won't fall for that.
No, honestly, I have no idea.
G-
Is there a
to
joke there? I don't know what.
to be read list.
Oh, TBR. I thought you said
Yeah.
TVR. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, yeah. See again. That's the same like with the Panther last time. I fell for that. And
Yeah, but no, that wasn't a joke. I tell everybody I'm a panther now. There's no such word as panzer in my dictionary.
yeah, I totally ran into that. But
So in the world of the cyborgs, how do you survive their world? Because
uh,
you mentioned that she comes to kill everybody. Well,
well, yeah. So there is only one rule: don't mess with the cyborgs. Don't get on their bad side because you definitely won't survive it. There is no
mm,
chance for you to survive against them because um, they are 60% machine and 40% human. They
mm,
are 10 times faster, 10 times stronger than you. So Nephilim can snap your spine just like that with her fingers, or lift up a car if she wants. And you can't even escape in a car because they are so fast. And they have drones which can fly and can
ah,
transport them. You will not escape. There is no chance. They have been designed, as it is revealed in the book relatively soon. That's why I can say it. They have been designed to hunt down and kill humans. And there is this scene where Metatron, the bad guy, explains why they need them and can't just use AI, androids or whatever, because
mm,
they have them too. And he says only a human mind can understand a human mind that sometimes acts irrational. So
fascinating.
only a human can hunt down a human. So you take the human mind and put it into the body, which is much, much more advanced, and you get the perfect killers. So everyone who disagrees with the society is dead because once they go after you, nothing in
Yeah.
the world will save you.
Well, that sounds Very brutal.
Yes.
I guess the only way to survive from what you mentioned earlier was to play on their compassionate side, maybe.
No,
Befriend them. No, it's not going to work.
no. That only works with Nephilim because she starts doubting. The others will just laugh at you and then say, "Okay, run,
Very
run.
merciful. Yeah.
Let's see how far you get. Run." And
Oh,
then they will stand there and sneer while you run away, sweating and scared, and then they will kill you. So, yeah, no
sounds
escape.
very hopeful. Cheers.
Brave new
Okay.
world.
Right. We've got two more questions left. And they're kind of both connected, but they're both by different people. So we will see. And don't know if any of this is involved in your story, but we'll find out. So, writing through this, I guess is her name, at Andrea Hernaez. How important is romance in your work in progress? Is it in the main plot, subplot, or is it non-existent?
You go
Go on.
first, or
No, you go on. Go
I
on.
go first. Okay, so I have a romance in most of my books, but it's only a subplot because
Mm-hmm.
I think it's, for me personally, I think it's important that there are feelings and emotions, and the easiest way to create really big emotions is when you have two people who love each other and something happens. So it's always a good subplot, in my opinion. But personally, I could never write a romance novel. I simply wouldn't know what to write because I'm not a very romantic person. And so, to be honest, the love story in Behind Blue Eyes was for me the most difficult to write. I
Mm,
admire romance authors who can fill hundreds of pages with romance because for me, it was tough work and it was the scenes that I had to rework the most. So when it comes to action and so on, that's just no deal for me. But romance is tough, tough,
mm.
tough.
I feel the same about comedy, and people write really funny stuff, witty, funny stuff, and I love comedy, and I'm if I can bounce off someone if they're funny, but for me to sit and try to write a character that's really funny, I find a little tricky, and
But
it's
you are
something
funny.
well, I'm good to laugh at, I think. So I think that's what I struggle with. But in terms of romance, although I'd say subplot in my story or the two stories that create the series, it is something that my character, she's like a 19-year-old woman who's growing into herself or trying to find herself. And throughout that, there is almost every character. This it's going to sound kind of bad now, whether it's a father figure, a mother type figure, or a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is. She is constantly looking for that love and support. So whether it's not direct romance or is direct romance, as the sequel may reveal, quite a steamy romance that she is constantly
Oh.
looking. Yeah, she's constantly looking for that romance, whether it's like I said, a parental figure or someone just a guiding figure for her in her journey. So yeah, very much romance in a dark place.
Mm, no, that sounds good. I'd like
Mm,
to add a question to this question. So, how about
okay.
sex? How
Well,
how is writing sex for you?
okay. We'll go jump on the next question.
Oh, you see, there we go.
Sam Clover at Clover Erotica. How do you feel about writing sexually charged scenes and sexual chemistry tension in your stories? So, if I'm going to answer that straight off the back of the last question, um,
I need a drink.
when I wrote I'm a panther writer or a panzer writer, as we've discovered,
You're a true panther. Yeah.
true panzer. So when I was writing the sequel, which is the Embers of Life, which is Daisy continuing her story, as I mentioned, she's finding herself throughout the whole story, whether that's how to survive or how to connect with someone, or just there's just so many things that she has to battle with. One thing she always desired is companionship, and it's an unlikely character that she falls in love with, and there is a scene in there that was quite graphic, and it wasn't hard to write at all, and I didn't plot this, so it's kind of a surprise to even myself writing it. But the only thing I found difficult about this is knowing that perhaps my nephew could read it, and he's into the first book, and he's quite young. So those sort of things were kind, maybe a bit of an apprehension, but actually, it wasn't like a cheesy scene, and it kind of fit really well in the story. So I'm very happy with it, and I think the feedback so far has been fantastic for the majority of that book, including that scene. So yeah, what about
Awesome.
yourself?
Sounds great. Well, I have a lot of sex in Behind Blue Eyes. That's because, so for me, it's I never write sex scenes or violent scenes without a reason. I think it has to
Mm.
be embedded in the story, not just for the sake of it.
Hmm.
So the society of Olympias is a very promiscuous society. So they are very, very unleashed. There are no real relationships. So you just have hookups and so on. That's how the society has evolved into.
Mm.
So of course, in this kind of society, sex is a very important aspect for the whole story, and so I have a lot of it, but not too graphic. So
Yeah.
I don't write like the erotica authors. I
Mm.
But I also don't fade away at the fireplace, from old movies. So that also not. I think like a little bit of a middle ground, so
Mm.
describing that much that people can imagine what is exactly happening without having to invent strange names for
Mm.
janitors.
Do you know? I think I did a really good job of avoiding those specific things. Like, it was quite graphic, but at the same time, it doesn't go into that world, and because that's something that kind of puts a lot of people off, the way things are
Yeah,
said or the words that are used, and somehow it's quite a brief-ish scene, so somehow I managed to keep it quite streamlined. I think, although it is a bit more or a little less imagination needed at times, but it's kind of, I think I've done all right. Perhaps
yeah,
this is what I need to be getting into because they're the ones that sell money. They're the books that sell.
yeah, right. I
I
think so
know.
too. I mean, I don't know why people
Ah.
prefer those books to our books, but that's just how it is,
Do you
right?
know what,
So
Sam Clover? Thank you for the question because it's a great question. Even though we just took it off the internet and you probably didn't know about it at the time, but do you know what? I think it's interesting to know because people who write erotica do sell, I think, on average, a lot more books than any other genre.
mhm.
Um, so I want to know, and please message me back if you do get this. Did you write that erotica book or start writing erotica because you knew that, or did you do it because you wanted to write those sort of stories? I'd love to know the answer to that. Hmm. So, that I think was a great range of questions from
Yes.
barbecues, sexual scenes, and being a famous author. And I appreciate all of those questions. And
Yeah, very nice questions.
was there anything else, Anna, that you wanted to talk about before we wrap up? Because again, you said your sequel. Is it your sequel that's coming out in September, or is this a new story?
Yes, yes, that's the sequel to Shadow City. So I haven't
Mm.
talked about that one. I have two series. One is Behind Blue Eyes, and the
Mm.
other one is Shadow City, Tales of the Shadow City. And the second book is coming out in September, and I'm very excited about it. It's quite different to Behind Blue
Mm.
Eyes, which is a cyberpunk story. This is more a post-apocalyptic story,
Nice.
and it's very dark and. But it's also funny. I've been told there is a character in there. Her name is Bombshell. She is quite funny, and so
Right.
there's a little bit humor in the darkness.
Mm.
But I'm very excited about this book coming out, and I think for all the people who read the first book, I think that the second book is better than the first one, and
Mm.
I'm super thrilled that it will be out soon, and then I will start writing on the third one, which will finish the trilogy. So this one is concepted as a classical trilogy. So there will be, already can tell, there will be a horrible, horrible cliffhanger
Ooh,
at the end of book two.
love it. So the third
Yes.
book, is it in production already?
No, I first need to finish Behind Blue Eyes too,
Okay, okay.
but it is already. I'm a plotter. I'm not a cool penter like you. So I have already plotted it out completely, and I know exactly what will happen. I just need to write it down. If it only were so fast, right?
Yeah, I know. It is a long process, and one thing I will say to any new authors listening is 100%. You might be feeling the need to rush this book and get it out there, but when you think you're done, if you're going down the route I did and doing it all yourself, stop, go back and check it again, because the one thing that you have got is time. The one thing you don't want is to be thinking I should have spent more time on it. Not suggesting that I did think that, but now with the, I want to use my book as a marker and a signal to every indie author out there that I'm not going to go back and change this book in 3, 5 years, whatever it may be. If I've got, a load of cash magically sat in my bank, I'm not going to go say, right, okay, I've got the time and the money now. I'm going to go back and get this book done properly. I'm leaving that there is a marker for myself to show how far I've come, and for you guys to say that you can do it that way without spending money and doing it all yourself, basically. So that's going to be staying that way, and I hope that someone finds confidence in that. So take your time. Definitely take your time.
That's that's a fantastic tip, because I think a lot of people are rushing it. I mean,
Mm,
bring out one book after another, and then it really takes time. I also suggest, once you have the first draft, leave it be for maybe 2 months or something,
mm.
and until you get back to it, and then you will have a completely new perspective. Take your time, and love your book. Love it.
It's
Love
hard though,
it.
isn't it? It's so hard when you take months over your first book. It could be months, it could be years for some people, and then you think, I'm close to finishing, and you just think, just get it out, just get it out. But you're like, no, you need to stop there. And someone said the other day, it was a great tip that I think it was Halo that mentioned you could even possibly change the font of the entire book, and when you go
Mhm.
back to it, you will see things that you didn't see before, because you get so used to seeing that text over and over and over that you kind of miss things automatically, and it's something weird that our brain does. So perhaps it's worth doing that. I don't know. I've never used that, but it may be useful to somebody.
Also, another thing is, so I think beta readers are really important.
Hmm.
You should have them, but it's not necessary that they are right and you are wrong about stuff. So
Mm.
you always have to listen to yourself, and what your gut says about your book, about your story. Sometimes you are right and they are wrong. Even let's say you have four beta readers, and three of them will say, so this and this doesn't work, and one person will say, oh, that's so cool, that's the best about the book. And then you
Mm.
sit there and think, what should I do? You always should listen to yourself, and always listen inside you. Very often, especially when they are benevolent towards you, the beta readers are right. They will tell
Mm.
you honestly if there is a problem, but sometimes there are not. So it's not necessarily that they know better than you do, because I just had this with a friend who said, oh, he was a little bit upset because of what beta readers said, and yeah.
Well, what I've got to think about and trying to, again, instill in myself, and I think this is great advice for you guys writing, that if I liked my story, which I really do like my story, I wrote it because I wanted to read that story. Other people will want to read what you want to read. So whether your book hits 100 people that really don't like your book, there's 100 or 200 more that really do like your book. So just keep at it and just put it in the right places if you can. So just believe in it. If you believe in it, then someone else will. Cool.
Fantastic advice. Yes, that's the best advice you can give.
Excellent. Okay, we're going to wrap up, and it's been a genuine pleasure, Anna. Always is having you on the show, and thank you so much for dressing your dogs up, because that's very cool. Uh,
Batman is now here. He's bored, and Wonder Woman stripped. Okay, so I don't I don't
oh,
know how she did it, but the costume is gone. I don't know where it is.
fantastic! It must have been the talk of the sexual tension question from San Clover.
Wonder
Um,
Woman became naughty. Thank you very much
yeah,
for inviting me, Chris.
no
As
worries.
always, I had a blast, and it was really a very interesting conversation.
Well, thank you very much. And again, guys, please, the Beer Token book promotion, go and buy One on One by Michael Kelso on Amazon. again, I'll leave the links below. It does look a fantastic book, and it's got a fantastic review, especially into the darker side of things. So please go and check that out for us. And we're looking for sponsors for many, many more shows to come. So please check that out. And look forward to Friday. And I'm going to get this name wrong again. Laura Coyote, something like that. It's really bad that I can't pronounce it. And she is on the show Friday. She has been in Hollywood for a long, long time. She's been in Django. She's been in Kill Bill. She's got 5 books out, I think. Very,
Wow.
very worth checking out. Yeah, it's a great, great interview. And that's on Friday. And we won't be having the Moonlight Session show on Friday. That will drop the same time as the Friday Night Chat show because Mr. Hooley is still moving. And, he's taking his
Where
time.
is he moving? Where is he
I think
moving?
I think he's gone on holiday and just hasn't told me. But he's still moving, so he hasn't got internet back. So until then, we're kind of after last week's mass. We had 9 shows on last week. So after that, we're taking our time this week. We're gonna have Indie Wednesdays, Friday Night Chat show, and we'll be back to normal next week. And next Friday, on the day of my book release, I am going to be interviewed on the show, which is very exciting in kind of a weird way. So if you are interested in being the co-host with Mr. Hooley to interview me next week, please tweet the show. And do you know what? I'm sure we'll send a tweet out at some point doing some sort of competition. So look out for that. And you could be sat in the hot seat with Mr. Hooley interviewing me and putting me on the spot next week, which I'm sure will be fabulous. So,
Hmm.
and that's on the day of my book release. So it'll be very exciting. So please look out for that tweet. And thank you so much for tuning in, guys. And we'll see you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, guys.